All right, and we're live on The Niche Agent. So today we got a great guest. It's Kevin Baker from Kitchener-Waterloo. You're from Remax. So Kevin, why don't you take a second and tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here?
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me on the show. My name's Kevin Baker. I've been in business this will be my 13th year. I've been with Remax for the last 7 years. I started with Coldwell Banker, spent 5 years there, and then I've been with Remax Twin City in Kitchener for the last 7. Father of 3 kids. Grew up in a small town north of Kitchener in Hanover. I got into real estate when my company was downsized, and I was kind of forced to look for a new profession. I've always been in the sales profession, but I thought, well, what better way to make a career, make a living than selling the biggest asset anybody has, which is a house. So that's what kind of drove me into that business, and it's been great ever since.
Okay, so for you, your claim to fame or your shtick is direct response marketing and online marketing. So can you tell us a bit about what you do and how that's worked for you?
Yeah, like I have to start I guess I start at the beginning. I've been doing it about 4.5 years now, and I never did it before that. And I kind of had an aha moment. I was out at a bar actually, and it was because of a girl, and I met a nice lady, and the next day she tried to find me online, and she couldn't find me, and so she knew I was a realtor, and she tracked me down eventually, and she said, well, I couldn't find you. And I went, that's a big aha moment, because if you're looking for me and you can't find me, that's a problem. What happens if the people who aren't looking for me, how are they supposed to find me? So I kind of made it my mission over the next 2 to 3 years to learn everything I could about search engine optimization, using Google to drive traffic to my websites, using WordPress to how to build a website, using direct response marketing to engage customers, giving away information for free, because that's what the consumer's looking for. They're looking for information so that they can make an educated decision about buying a house, and they don't want to talk to a salesperson. So that's kind of where that process started, and it's evolved into what I consider to be quite a good business. It affords me a good living. It's actually decreased my workload and decreased my work hours, but increased my income. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about is, for you, the big thing is cutting back on that hours you work. So can you give an example of how often you actually are working?
I would, and people don't want to hear this, but I probably work less than 30 hours a week, in the real estate business. I do a lot of stuff at night. I'll work on my websites. I will, I shoot video and I upload that kind of stuff. I guess I don't consider that work time. I'm talking about, showing clients houses, doing offers, working on the marketing side of things. That internet and the website and the video to me, I enjoy it. So it's not, I don't really consider those work hours, but it definitely has decreased the amount of time I've had to spend in the business to generate leads.
Okay. So prior to doing this style, what were you doing to generate business, and what was your marketing like?
It'd be referral, meeting past clients, handing out business cards at functions. I did a little bit of cold calling. I really hated it. Cold calling strangers at supper time.
Most people do.
Most people do. I did a little bit of door knocking, but I thought to myself, if I have to make a living cold calling and door knocking, I probably won't make a living.
Yeah.
And it was productive. I cold called. My first try at cold calling, I cold called 7 or 8 houses, and I went over to see 2 of them.
Wow.
And I listed one of them. So, it wasn't that it was unproductive, but I hated it. And I'd rather give people information that they find useful and helpful. Yep. And when they're ready to call me, they will.
I'm a big believer in that. The education-based marketing, when you put them first and their needs and their wants first, you're going to get back the business. And a lot of agents think that you got to lock down everything, keep it in a tight vault, and not give them anything because they think you're going to control their information. But it couldn't be more opposite of that.
Exactly. With the internet, the advent of the internet, information is readily available. Yep. Back in the old days, the agents controlled everything. Yep. They had their big MLS book they used to walk around, the city with, and in their car. And in order for somebody to get information, they had to call a real estate agent. Yep. And that's not true anymore. Yep. They can go online, they can go on MLS.ca and Realtor.ca, they can get all the information they need, they can do tons of research, and when they're ready to go look at the house or look for a house, then they either ask a friend or family member for a referral,
Yep.
or they go online and Google,
Yep.
right? And that's the market that I focus on. Yep. I still do the keeping in touch with my clients and doing all that side of the business as well. But in order to attract new business, that's how I do it.
Right.
I use Google, I use the web traffic, and I use direct response as a way to do that.
Yep. And I've said it many times, is people are online looking for information, not an agent.
Right.
And so many agents put themselves as the forefront of it, thinking they're looking for them.
Yeah.
Most people are not looking for you specifically.
No.
They're looking for the information, and if you can provide that, you can show them that you've got that information, and you can give them value, then they'll want to work with you.
Right. And it's also about following up and not hassling.
Exactly.
Right. Like, provide the information and then keep them updated.
Yep.
And gently, every once in a while you touch base. And when they're ready, they're going to call you. And whether it's you or another person, you obviously you hope it's yourself.
Yep.
But if you position yourself in such a way that you've been the person that's providing the information in not a pushy way,
Yep.
then I find most people are quite happy to give you a call and meet with you. Get to know you a bit better, and you get to know them, what
Yep.
they're looking for, and the relationship's nurtured. You don't go from meeting the person on a first date to getting engaged the next day.
Yeah.
You don't. It's a process, and that process starts with you reaching out to me for information,
Yep.
me providing the information, and then keeping in touch.
Yep.
And at some point in the future, we'll get together for a meeting, and then we'll look at houses, and then we'll go buy a house, and then we'll close the house, and then we'll keep in touch.
Yep.
And that's the process.
Yep. And I find too that a lot of people think, because we are in an information age, that they look at information overload and they think, well, there's already so much information out there, I'm not going to be able to provide the right information for people. And I find it's actually the important thing is whittling away the bad information and giving them that concentrated good information. So
Sure.
it's how you package that information. Everyone has access to the sales stats and what's out there and what the market's like. If you can give them the right information and free up their time so they're not having to search through thousands of websites to get the information they want, then you can help them.
Like if you go to if you're a buyer searching on realtor.ca, you're going to go on there every day and you're going to see the same houses over and over and over again while you try to research the new ones.
Right.
What I can provide is a way that every day the new listings come up on the market, they get automatically sent to you.
Yep.
Right to your inbox, whether you're at work or at home or at the gym. So you don't have to go onto MLS.ca or realtor.ca and do the research. It's already right there.
The same information, just packaged differently.
Sure. Yeah, and it's about saving time,
Yep.
right? You'd rather be spending time with your family than, on the computer looking for your next house.
Although there are some people, I think.
Well, they
there
might.
are people
Yeah,
that would spend.
they might want to do
time.
that too. But yeah.
Okay, so for you focused on, to get started, you were focusing on a few condo buildings and things like that. Can you tell us a bit about how that evolved and what happened with that?
Well, my direct response, I started with one website, which was KW Real Estate Life, and I designed it as a blog site for me to start sharing my feelings on the real estate market and life in general. And it quickly evolved into something different. We started focusing on the housing market,
Right.
and I noticed from the traffic that was coming in that it was probably 85% condos.
Okay.
So about 6 months in, I decided, you know what, I need to set up a second website to focus just on the condo market.
Yep.
So I created kwcondosandlofts.com, and I called those websites specific things for a reason to help
Yep.
generate SEO and those kind of things, using keyword searches and those type of tools. And now the condo site generates probably 80% of my leads.
Wow.
Right? Because Kitchener-Waterloo is in its infancy in the condo market.
Yep.
It's not like Toronto. We're where Toronto was back in the 90s.
Right.
We're just starting to convert the old buildings. We have 4 or 5 loft buildings in town that were old factories,
Yep.
like Arrow and Kaufman.
Yep.
But we also have a lot of new construction coming online. So there's the condo market is fast becoming the driving force in our community.
Right.
So I want to be on the forefront of that force,
Yep.
and I want to make sure that I position myself that I'm the go-to person for that market.
So how long have you been doing the condo specifically? You said you jumped in pretty quick and then realized it.
Yeah, I've been doing direct response and my web business for probably about 4.5 years.
Okay.
And the condo market's been 3.5, 4 years of that. I still do both.
Yep.
Right? Like I have 3 websites.
Yep.
One's designed only for condos. One's designed for house and condos, and then one's my listing site that I house all my listings on.
Okay.
And all three sites drive traffic between them, and they all drive traffic back to each other. But the condo site, as far as new leads that come in, that's the one that generates the most.
Okay. So what are you doing to actually drive the traffic? You mentioned SEO. So why don't we go into for that a bit, and then we'll talk about some of the other strategies.
Sure. Well, I love Google, and I love video, and thank goodness that Google bought YouTube, right? So I initially started with a guy out in Vancouver that was shooting videos from his car.
Okay.
And I decided nobody here is doing that. I'm going to try that. So I went out and bought a camera, bought a little pod, and I started shooting videos from my car on any topic in the world, right? Like condo market, new buildings, housing market, lawyers, mortgages. My most watched video is how to stop birds from pooping on your deck.
Nice.
Right? Like, so it doesn't have to be just real estate related. It could be general interest. It could be anything. But what it does is when you shoot that video and you put it on YouTube, it increases your traffic 10 times, right? Your views on your traffic. So I started doing that, and then I would cut, post them into the website, and that's how the SEO started, right? So now when you search, say a condo like Seagram's Loft, I'm the first link. Right. There's been times where I've had 4 or 5 of the top 12 links on the first page. Wow. So, and it varies, like different times of the year, or it depends on how active I am in that Seagram's market at that time. It all varies, but if the last time I've checked, and the last 10 times I've checked, I've been the first link on that Seagram search. So that's how I've used video and especially Google to drive traffic to the website.
So you're not paying a SEO guy to do your stuff? Because I know a lot of people get sucked into, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but there's a lot of people out there who will take your money to do SEO.
There is a lot of, I get pitched all the time. And my sharing of information is not a sales pitch. There's nothing coming at the end about me trying to sell you something. It's just, you invited me onto the show, and I'm sharing what I know. But yeah, there's lots of people that will be happy to take your money. And I get companies all the time calling me, can I help you with your SEO? Can I help you with your website traffic? And I'm like, I don't need you, right? I do it all on my own. I do it all organically. I've never, ever done Google AdWords. I've never done Facebook pay-per-click. Every lead I generate is done organically. Wow. And when I say organically, that means for zero cost.
So then the videos were a big strategy for you. So what else are you doing? Because videos definitely help, but is there anything else you're adding to that to increase?
Well, as far as the SEO goes, I do some written blogs as well. So blogging is really the core of driving the SEO traffic to my site. So using Google, using YouTube, using the video. Number one, it gets my face out there. It helps put people a face to a name. There's obviously a trust factor that's built in there when they hear me speaking in front of them on their computer. So that's definitely been a big plus. But I also do written blogs. I'll oftentimes cut and paste information if my mortgage broker does a good piece. I talk to her and I say, can I borrow that? And I cut and paste it into my site because it's just about providing information to people, and that's what it's really all about. Is just giving the people what they need to make educated decisions.
And I think too, an important thing to note is, you'll agree with me on this, I'm sure, it's important to rank, but you also have to capture the information. So a lot of people do that, and they spend all this time and money getting themselves to rank first in Google, and then they don't even capture leads. They don't have any call to action. And that's where the direct response comes in.
And that's the second piece, and that's the piece that everybody misses. Right? When I speak to groups, I've spoken to at Rebar in Woodstock and in Toronto, and people will I'll ask people, how many people have a website? And everybody puts their hand up, obviously. And if you don't put your hand up, you got a big problem. But my next question is, how many people's, or how good is your website? Is it working? And the majority of the people's hands go down. Right? So for me, that's where the direct response piece comes in, because if I can do all this video and all this SEO and all this blogging and grab all that internet traffic and bring them to my website. But once I get them to the website, then what do I do? Then you have to say, okay, well, what's the next step? And I've always built my business on what's the next step. And the next step, once you get in there, is to engage.
Yep.
And you can have 1 million people come to your website, but if nobody engages with you, it doesn't matter. I could have 10 come to my website, and if 10 people engage with me, then I've got 10 leads.
Yep.
Right? The guy that's got 1 million hits doesn't have anything.
Yep.
And I have an acronym for HITS, and it's how idiots track sales, which, hits are just that. Just people come to the website. You want to be able to engage and convert in order to start a conversation. And that's what it's about. It's just like social media, right? Social media is not about, for realtors, it's not about push your listings. It's about engaging the people on your Facebook and on your Twitter into conversations. And that's where the relationships are built. And once you build that relationship, you build the trust, then you can start helping them out in their real estate needs.
Exactly. I actually had a good friend of mine, I'm not going to say any names, he, a few years ago, was focusing on SEO, ranking for all the top keywords, doing really well in the area, and just doing amazing. And he kept coming back, and he's like, Ryan, I'm not getting any leads. I'm not getting any leads. He's like, what's going on? I'm getting all this traffic. And I said, are you capturing their information? Are you getting them to put their hand up and give their information? He's like, no, if they like me, they'll leave their information, they'll reach out to me. And I'm like, you can't do that. You have to get them to get now, it doesn't have to be sleazy. You don't have to force them into doing stuff, but you have to give them something of value and get them to leave their information in return. As soon as he did that, his business changed overnight.
Yeah.
He just went through the roof. He listened and he changed his approach, and he's now growing his team and is doing very well with it. But it was just that psychological change made all the difference in the world.
I've always approached the business as give first, right? Yep. And and there's always an even trade, right? So give first, and the even trade will come. And the even trade is, you're not going to get somebody to come to the website and say, can you come over to my house? Because that never happens. They come to the website, they see, okay, well, I can get this information from Kevin, and that's great. So they'll ask for that, and I happily provide it.
Yep.
No obligation. There's no phone call. There's no harassing. There's nothing. I just send out the information and I follow up.
Yep.
And to me, that's giving first, and then at some point I always ask for that even trade, which is when you're ready, I'm here to help.
Yep.
And to me, that's the trade, right? So, but that's where the direct response piece comes in, because if you go to the website and you say, I want a report on Kaufman Lofts, I'll be happy to provide that, right? And that shows that client or that customer that, I'm here to give the information. I freely give the information. They get value from that information because they want to know what their unit's worth, right? And so they go on there looking, okay, well, how much is my Kaufman's loft worth? Well, this is a great way to find out, right? And I'm going to get it for free.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And it's not just sellers. I get buyers that come, just as many buyers that come on to those sites and ask for the same information that I provide to sellers, because buyers want to be educated too, right? And it's important because they, it's their purchase as well. So they want to make sure they're not going to overpay, which is my job, right? So I'm happy to provide them as well.
So for you, the direct response is important because it captures them. Once they come into the pipeline and they come into the funnel, what are you doing to stay in contact with them? Because that's the other piece too. So I think there's getting them to the site is important.
Yep.
A lot of agents drop the ball on that. Getting them to take action. A lot of agents drop the ball on
Yeah.
that. And then there's the getting them to actually take action after that and meet with you. So what is that phase of your business look like?
Well, and
How are you doing that?
that's great. That's very true, Ryan, because lots of agents will be able to generate leads, and most of them pay for them. They use companies to help generate them, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't see the need. Then they drop the ball.
Right.
Then they come to the website or they ask for the information, and some of them may send it out, some of them may not, right? And then once you get past that step, the third step is staying in touch, and that's where a lot of agents.
That's where the money's made too, though.
Exactly, and that's where a lot of the agents drop the ball. And I use obviously I use a CRM, right? So what I do is once the lead comes in, I send out the information, and then I put them into the CRM, and I get name, address, phone number, email, pretty much everything. It's not just a lot of people say, well, I got a lead. It's an email lead, right? Well, it's just that. It's just an email address. My leads consist of full name, address, phone number, email address, right? So I have multiple ways to connect with them. So I put them into my CRM, and then I set them up on a monthly, not a drip, but I send out, every month I send out an updated information. So say, for example, they're coming in looking for a report on aero lofts. I would send out the initial report, and then every month I would send out an updated report on the activity in the building.
Right.
And that's a great way to stay in touch because, number one, it gives them the new information, which they're craving. They want to know exactly what's up to date.
Yep.
But number two, it also keeps my face in front of them.
Yep.
Right? And it shows them that I'm still adding value.
Right. Now, that report they're saying is customized to what they were looking for.
Sure.
Because I find a lot of agents, they make the mistake of they put them into a drip or a campaign and they just blast the exact same thing to all 1,000 people in their database. And to me, I think there's a big disconnect there as well, because if they came in as a buyer or they came in as a seller, if they came in as whatever, they're sending everyone the exact same canned spam message. And I find that people don't get the response.
No, it's like a print newsletter. Like you can sign up for print newsletter services, and they send out the same newsletter to your entire database, and that's wonderful. But what happens if that client of yours or that customer that you maybe have never met or have been on the database for a while is getting the same newsletter from somebody else, right? So now they're getting two of the same newsletter but with different names on it. So I try to make the pieces that I send out different and unique, but specific to the client. So again, if they're looking for, and it's not just condos, like we're focusing our conversation on condos, but I only do half my business in the condo market.
Right.
The other half is the housing market, right? So if they're looking for information on East Bridge house prices or Grand River North house prices, I'll send out that information as well, and I take that and I critique it so that it's directly good for them, right? If you live in Grand River North, you don't want information on Laurelwood, which is on the other side of town, right? You want information that's based on your neighborhood, right?
And I think it's important to understand, back to the direct response, you got them because they specifically were looking for that information. And that's another mistake that agents make, is they try to do their whole city. And you can do that, but when you start getting into those specific neighborhoods, specific property types, specific types of buyers or sellers, and you can customize and tailor it, you're going to get a higher response rate and you're going to get more business out of that.
And it's also, like, we have agents in Kitchener-Waterloo that mail to the whole city. And myself and my team aren't about that. We're about providing good value to our clients and our customers, personal service, right? Like you're going to call into the office and you're going to get myself, or you're going to get Yogi, and you're going to get Diane. You're not going to get one of 15 people, right? Or I don't come out to your house and I'm going to do a listing presentation and I'm going to pass you off to somebody else, right? When you meet with me, you work with me, right? And that's okay, right? I don't do the huge volume that some of the guys do, but I'm okay with that because I get to spend time with my family, spend time with my kids, be able to go to soccer games, but I'm also there for my clients. And that's another reason why I work within a team, because if I'm not available or I'm on holidays, one of my team members can help out, or vice versa. If they're away, I can help them out. So our clients get really good personal service, and they're always taken care of.
Okay. So I want to go back to the direct response thing again, because I think that's an important part that, again, a lot of agents are missing. What does that look like for you? Can you describe direct response marketing? I'll just stop there for a second, because we just had a guest on. He was a copywriter. He went pretty explained it pretty well, but I want to have your take on what you think direct response marketing is and what it isn't and what's important about it.
Well, I don't have the definition in front of me, but my take on direct response marketing is someone asking for something of value to them. So, if you're going to come, whether it's a web lead or whether it's you're delivering flyers to a neighborhood, because you can use direct response in a variety of ways, not just on the internet, but it's someone asking for information that they're going to find helpful and useful to educate themselves on some topic, and you're going to provide that in exchange for their contact information. Right? So that's really my definition of it. And I've studied it for 4 years, so I think I have a fairly good knowledge of it. But that would be my take on it.
So for you, what kind of things are you offering? What are you getting people to give their information? What do you find works? What doesn't work? A
lot of people will say, here's a report on the 10 top things to avoid. I call them the negative reports, right? The top 10 things to avoid when selling your house, or the top 7 things to look for during a home inspection. That's direct response too. Yep. You're providing information to people. That stuff really doesn't work. Okay. I have different, if you go onto my websites, I have different sections, and there's one that, says, free reports. I never get anybody asking for those. Okay. All the people that come in are, I would say 75-80% of them are asking for a pricing report on their neighborhood, their condo building, something that's their neighborhood, something that's important to them. And then the other 20% are typically buyers coming in asking for information on listings, right? And asking in a way so that they don't have to do the work, right? I'm going to do the search. I'm going to send out the initial report of what's for sale that fits their criteria, and then I'm going to keep them updated daily via, the systems that we use to send them all the new listings that come up that fit that criteria. So those are the two pieces that really generate the most traffic for me. Every once in a while I get somebody that asks me for a report on top 10 things not to do, but not very often.
I find those, you can get them, but they don't end up converting as well because they're looking for all kinds of those reports in different places.
Sure, and you can go onto Google and you can say top 10 reasons why not to buy a house, or top 10 reasons why to buy a house, and you're going to get 150 different reports, right?
Or they're all exact same.
Or they're all exactly the same, right?
The templated websites, and they all have the exact same reports on every single thing.
Yeah, like if there's lots of agents that sign up for a company branded website, right? And all those websites are all the same. Yeah. So you're going to get 50 agents in your office that all have the same information. Yeah. So that type of stuff really doesn't work. It's the information that's really specific to that client or that customer or that lead that is what they're really looking for.
Okay. So for you, what's next in your business, and what do you think is next in the SEO world?
Well, Google's always changing. It's what you think's working today probably wasn't working yesterday because Google changed it the day before. Yeah. It's really hard to keep up with. As far as SEO, I think you just have to keep on keeping on. Right? It's like anything. If you're out there cold calling or door knocking and you stop cold calling and door knocking, your leads are going to fall off. Yeah. If you are doing SEO, and the nice thing about SEO is I call it the difference between fresh peaches and canned peaches. I do canned peaches because they sit on the shelf and they can sit there for 6 months, and they'll still be okay when you open them.
That's a good analogy,
right? But if you have a fresh peach and you put that on the shelf, after a couple of days, it's not going to be any good. Yeah. So that's the door knocking and the cold calling. Once you stop, it's done, right? The leads will stop. Yep. When I use video and I use Google and I use YouTube, that stuff sits there forever. Yep. So I've gotten people that have emailed me off of a blog post I did on YouTube 2 years ago. And I'm like, how did you find me? Well, I seen this video on this and this. And I'm like, that's great. That's perfect. Exactly what I want to hear. So, as far as where SEO is going, I don't think it's going to change at all. Google's going to change their algorithms, and, keyword searches may change a little bit. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but at the end of the day, I don't see it changing that much as far as the nuts and bolts of it. But you have to keep doing it, right? You have to keep putting out the content and making the content relevant.
And good content.
And good, relevant to people, right? Like if you're putting out crap, you're gonna get crap back. You have to make sure it's something that people want, right, and they're going to use. And
in line with the niche agent, the content you should be doing should be niche, relevant, specific, not just broad. The days of just talking about just real estate or just the housing market, or specifically, Google's cracking down on those. They don't want these broad things. They want local, hyper local, specific to what those buyers are looking for, and that's where I think you're going to find the biggest success.
And I think that's why the condo site does so well,
right?
Because it's if you take the two blog sites that I have, one has houses and condos, one has just condos. So that's why I generate more traffic on the condo site, because it's a niche site, right? It's only generated or only specific to the condo market, and it's really only specific to 5 buildings. Right. I'm not focusing on new construction too much. I focus on Seagram's Loft, Bauer Loft, Mansion Loft, Kaufman Loft, and Arrow Lofts.
Yep.
So there's only 5 loft buildings in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I focus on all 5 of them. So, and between those 5 buildings, there's 600 units, 800 units maybe.
Yep.
So there's lots of business there,
Yep.
right? So that comes back to your point when you talk about niche marketing. That's kind of what I'm doing
Yep.
to focus on that niche.
And it's working.
Yeah, it seems to be working quite well. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we wrap up quickly? So why don't you give us a golden nugget, a good takeaway? So if someone is thinking about doing SEO or doing specific websites, can you give some insight or tips for people?
Don't be afraid. I think the biggest thing that people have is that they don't want to get, if you're going to use video, they don't want to get in front of the camera. Right? And if you go check me out, you can follow me on Twitter at Baker Real Estate. You can check out any of the videos I shot. I'm not the movie star guy, right? I'm just a normal average guy that decided to suck it up and take the camera out and shoot, point and shoot.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing I think you can take away from this is don't be afraid. You got to try it and spend a little time learning about it. Don't pay people to do it for you because they have all the control. Right? I own my websites. Nobody can take those away from me. If you're going to pay somebody to do SEO for you and then that company goes out of business, then what do you got to do? You got to pay somebody else to do it.
Yep.
If you learn it yourself, you're going to lose the fear and you're going to do a much better job about it. So that would be I think the biggest takeaway is don't be afraid and just go do it.
Okay, great. Kevin, we appreciate you being on the show. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to check out what you're doing or if they want to connect with you?
Well, I work at Remax Twin City in Kitchener-Waterloo, so the office number is 519-579-4110. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Baker Real Estate is my Twitter handle. And my email address is kevinbaker@kwhometeam.ca.
Perfect. And if they're looking for any condo lofts in Kitchener, Waterloo, they'll give you a call.
I'm the guy to call.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you for
Ryan.
being on the show.
All right, take care.
Thanks.